So we have completed all the basic setups for payables application. Now we can use payables to record the transactions. We can create invoices, payments, and we'll just go one by one. These are the various concepts we have in the payables to understand. So let's see how to create the standard invoice. Standard invoice is the one which we get from the supplier to make the payment. Whenever a purchase department purchase something from the supplier, supplier will send the invoice. That invoice we have to record in the system as a standard invoice, or you call it as purchase invoice or supplier invoice. All are same. Standard invoice or supplier invoice, okay, or purchase invoice, all are same. We'll see how we can create invoice through manual process within the payables. So later we will see how the invoice can be created based on the purchase order receipts, or how invoice can be created automatically. We'll discuss all these points. Let's see how to create the standard invoice in the payables. So in fact, we opened the periods also in the last session. We have set our business unit to be defaulted whenever you create invoice or payment in the payables application. So go to invoice workbench. Within the navigator, we can see payables because of the payables roles. We assign 3 roles. Now go to invoices task. If you click on invoices task, it will take us to invoice workbench. Invoice workbench. From this page, you can create and you can manage the invoices. To create the invoice, click on task list and click on create invoice. Click on create invoice. So when you talk about invoice creation, so invoice will have a header. Okay, you can have a header for invoice, and you can have a lines and distribution. For every invoice, one header and multiple lines and multiple distributions you can have. What are the amount to enter in the header, line, and distribution level? That should be equal. When you create invoice, system will verify the invoice, header, line, distribution amount is equal or not. It will check. So that is a 1 point. So that we call as validation. We create invoice by providing header, line, distribution amount, and we submit the invoice for validation. It will verify the header, line, distribution amounts are matching or not. If not matching, it won't validate. If you are not able to validate the invoice, you cannot make the payment and you cannot perform any further actions on that invoice. That is how it works. Fine. So let's see how to create invoice. So because of the profile option, what we have set, system is defaulting our business unit. This user got access to many BUs. If you click on drop down, you can see, but our BU is defaulting because we have set the profile option. Now select supplier. Select supplier. When you select supplier, system is taking supplier site also. Okay, when you select supplier, it is taking site. And enter invoice number. This is the number which you see in the invoice, whatever you get from the supplier. Okay, whatever you get from the supplier on that invoice, you can see this number. You should enter the same number. You should not go with your design number. Tomorrow, if you have an issue with the invoice, you call to supplier. Supplier will ask for supplier invoice number only. Say supplier given one number. Instead of entering that number, if you enter different number, tomorrow when there is some discussion, when there is issue with that invoice, you cannot match this information with the original invoice. So always enter number which you got from the supplier. So this is the invoice number, and invoice amount is say $5,000. System is defaulting the payment terms. Okay, we have a set of payment terms which are assigned to this BU with the reference data set. The same system is defaulting. If you want to change, you can change. We have access to total 4 payment terms. You can choose what are the payment terms you want to use. Done. So this information we call as header information. Okay, this is header information, and you can go to lines, just expand lines. And we have given the distribution set at supplier site level. At the time of this site, we given the distribution set, the same system is taking the distribution set. Now the same line amount, header amount, you can enter as one line, or else this amount maybe belongs to multiple lines. You can enter 1,000, 4 lines you can enter. And 4 lines you may use the 4 distribution sets, or you can enter the manual distribution. Here you can enter the distribution account if you don't want to use the distribution set. Let's use distribution set for now. Later we can see how to enter the manual distribution. Okay, so we want to create single line, so enter 5,000. Now whatever the accounts we have in this, that you can see through distribution. If you click on distributions, within this distribution set, whatever the account and percentage we given, accordingly this line amount will be distributed. As per this distribution set we given, 100% amount should go to internet expense account. That's how we create a distribution set. Same system is taking. This is a distribution. Okay, and this is a line, this is a header. The header amount, line amount, and distribution amount is matching. And now you can submit this invoice for validation. There is a lot of other information which you have to understand when you talk about this invoice. Slowly we will understand. Okay, we need some time. Okay, let's try to understand very high level how to create invoice. Depending on the concept or process or the points which you are going to pick, we will discuss accordingly. We will come to know most of the information which you have to understand related to invoice. For now, let's try to understand how to create the basic invoice in the payables. We given the header information, we given line information. Based on the line distribution set, system is creating the distribution for this line. Now we have to submit this invoice for validation. When you submit for the validation, it will verify basic information is provided for this invoice or not, and header line distribution amounts are matching or not. Go to actions, click on validate. Okay, just click on validate. So once invoice is validated, you can make the payment if you want to pay. So invoice validation is mandatory. Okay, it's validated. Now just click on the same validated status. You can see validation status is validated, accounting, unaccounted, invoice is not accounted, payments not paid. What is the due date for this invoice? Today only, because payment term is immediate. Since payment term is immediate, today only we have to pay. Done. So how to create accounting for this invoice? How to create the accounting for this invoice? We'll see that. Before we go and create accounting, ensure that the GL period is open. Okay, verify the GL period is open or not, because we create accounting and will transfer this information to GL application. Check the GL period status. Go to general accounting. Select task called as period close. Select period close task so that you can verify what is the status of the current period within the GL. April period status is open. Cool. Now let's create accounting for this invoice. Click on post to ledger. If you click on post to ledger, what system will do is it will create accounting entries for this invoice, and it will transfer that accounting entries to GL in the form of journal, and it will post the journal in the GL automatically. You should remember these 3 points. What it will do? It will create real accounting. First step. Second step, the same real accounting entries, it will transfer to GL in the form of journal. The third point is the same journal can be posted in the GL automatically without any further action. 3 steps. If you select account in draft, it can create the sample accounting. That's all. Sample accounting can be created. Okay, if you select account in draft, sample accounting can be created. If you click on post to ledger, it can create accounting, it can transfer to general ledger, it will post in general ledger. Before you perform the post to ledger, if you want to view the accounting, you may go with an accounting draft. That is really not required. So if you want to verify, you can do that. Otherwise, there is no use of it. So this is what you have to understand. Let's try to post this invoice to ledger. Ledger means within the GL, we have a primary ledger. We are going to send to our primary ledger. That's it. Don't think ledger means general ledger. No. Ledger means we are going to send to primary ledger. So how system will understand this journal information, this invoice related accounting information should goes to that ledger. That ledger, the ledger what is assigned to this business unit, it will goes to that primary ledger. So after creating the business unit, we have a task called as assign business unit business functions. There we enabled all the business functions. We assigned our primary ledger and legal entity to business unit. Accordingly, it will send the data to that primary ledger. Just click on post to ledger. It will create accounting entries. It will transfer the accounting entries to GL and it will post the journal in the GL. Key actions it will perform without any intermediate step. It will do one by one and you will get a confirmation here saying that accounting is complete. Wait for a moment, you can see the confirmation. The status is, you can see the confirmation, accounting is complete. How it created accounting, what it took as a debit and credit, you can see that. See, now we are not going to do anything. We are not entering debits, credits, and you don't need to get into the accounting concepts and all. System is taken care of. Click on view accounting. And it is taking item expense debit, liability credit. Item expense nothing but what are the account we have in the distribution set, that account. We selected distribution set as internet expense. Within that internet expense, we have only one account, that is internet expense account. So whatever you have in the line level distribution set, it goes to distribution. Already we have seen. So this is the account it is taking. And liability. Liability account is taking as a credit. When you just place the cursor on this account, it shows the exact account name, accounts payable. Now the question is from where it is taking these two accounts. This account from where it is taking? From the distribution. So if you go to distribution, whatever the account you have, that account it is taking as a debit account. Okay, here whatever the account we have, this account is taking as a debit. And credit account from where it is taking? From the common options. The common options, you have a liability account, accounts payable account. That account it is taking. The liability account you can give at supplier site level also. We'll see when we go to site, we will just review that. You can give at site level. This New York site level, you can give liability account. Whenever you create invoice, if liability account is available at supplier site, it will take the account from the site and it will create. If liability account is not available at supplier site, always it will derive from the common options. This is the point you have to understand. Before it creates accounting entry, it will pick the account from the common options to invoice header here. If you go to show more, if you select accounting, you can see the liability account here. It is copied from common options. If it is there at supplier site level, it will take from site. First, it will check at supplier site. If it is not available, it will go to common options and it will pick. So this is how system can create accounting entry. As of now, simple point here is the accounting entry. You click on validated status and click on accounted. Again, you can see accounting entry. So simple accounting entry as of now, you remember, okay, you don't need to go for any calculations, simple. When you create manual invoice, what is the accounting entry? Expense account is debit, liability account is credit. That's it. Just remember this, not more than this. Expense account is debit, liability account is credit. Expense account from where it is taking? From invoice distribution. Invoice distribution level, how many accounts you have? If you have 4 accounts, it will take 4 accounts as debit. And liability account is credit. Liability account is taken from the common options. If you provided supplier site level, it will take from site only. It won't go to common options. So this is only the point you have to make a note as of now. We are talking about manual invoice. We are not auto creating this invoice. That also we'll see. Okay. How to create invoice? By providing the header line distribution information, you can create invoice. After creating invoice, we have to validate. After validating, you may create accounting. If you create accounting, it will just create the accounting entries, debits and credits. Debit account always it will take from the invoice distribution. Credit account it will take from site. If not available at site, it will take from the common options. The credit account is liability account. Now we'll go and verify this invoice related accounting entries are transferred to GL or not. Go to GL. Under general accounting, go to journals task. Go to journals. Now click on task list. Click on manage journals. So you want to verify anything came from AP to GL. Source you can select as a payables. Okay, from payables, okay, anything came to GL, you want to check. Just type payables or else you can search and select. Click on search. April month related anything came to GL or not? Yes, we have here. Source is payables, category is purchase invoice. In the payables, we created purchase invoice that is coming from payables with the $5,000. The journal got posted also. You can open this journal. How the journal got created, you can see. So whatever the accounting entry we have in the payables, the same entry it will flow to GL. You see here, the expense account is debiting. The internet expense account is debiting. Okay, it is debit. And liability account is credit. Accounts payable account. Place cursor, it will display. That's it. Whatever the accounting entry we created or system created in the payables, the same accounting entry transferred to GL as a journal. And it got posted. Now, I'm working for GL. I'm a GL accountant, GL user. I want to understand this 5,000 is belongs to which invoice? It is showing as a purchase invoice. It is belongs to purchase invoice. Which purchase invoice? Who is the supplier? Whether this invoice related amounts are paid or not? I want to check. Maybe here 5,000. I may receive invoice with the $5 lakhs. I may get surprised to see that amount. How come this much amount we have to pay to so and so supplier? Who is the supplier? Who is that kind of supplier? I want to know. I can do that even if I don't have access to AP application. How we can do that? Again, that is read-only access. If you want to verify this 5,000 is belongs to which invoice, directly click on amount itself. There is hyperlink. Click on this amount. And here you expand this transaction information section. Expand it. You can see supplier name, supplier address, invoice number, invoice amount, whether invoice paid or not, belongs to which legal entity, how much amount is paid, how much is remaining. Still, if you want to see more details, click on view transaction. Click on view transactions. Now, this is the original invoice which we created in the payables. GL user is able to access as a read-only. So which BU, which is supplier, which is site, what is supplier address, invoice date, invoice, complete information, invoice amount, and everything you can see here. So this is invoice number. So from where we are accessing? From GL, data access set. From our ledger we are accessing, not from BU, read-only access. So this is how GL user can see the original transaction information with the read only. This functionality we call as drill down. Drill down functionality, or you may call as drill through also. From GL, we are able to drill to AP application to see original transaction information, okay, which was a source for the resulted journal. You can just click on done. We can go back to GL. That's it. Now we are in the GL only. From GL, we can drill down to original transactions by clicking on line amount. These are the two lines, debit line, credit line. By clicking on line amount, you can drill down. Just remember this point. Source means where transaction was created. Category means the origin, this is just, you can say, origin of the transaction. That means where transaction was created. Category means the purpose of the transaction. Okay, it got generated in the payables. For what purpose this entry got generated? Something created as a purchase invoice. For the purchase invoice, this entry was generated. This is what we have to understand. Source means the origin of the transaction, where it got generated. Category means purpose of the transaction. Purpose could be purchase invoice or payment. So this is how you can create accounting that can be transferred to GL. Let's go back to our invoice. If invoice is validated, then only you can create accounting. If invoice is not validated, you cannot perform any action on that invoice. And if invoice is validated, you can make the payment. To make the payment, accounting is not mandatory. Say I created invoice, I validated. I can make the payment, I can create accounting. I created invoice, I want to make the payment. I created invoice and validated. I want to make the payment. Yes, you can make the payment if you arrive due date. Whether you created accounting or not, secondary. If you don't create accounting, you cannot send the data to GL. If you create accounting, the data you can transfer to GL. That is only the big point what we have to understand. If you want to send this invoice data, payment data to GL, as it is, you cannot send. For that invoice and payments, you can create accounting entries. That information you can transfer to GL in the form of journals. That's all. So if you want to make the payment, it doesn't matter whether you accounted or not. Just click on validated status. You see here, accounting status is accounted. That's okay. Even if it is not accounted, I can make the payment. Let's see how to make the payment for this invoice. There are three options when you make the payment. We'll test three. Directly, you can make the payment for this invoice from the same page here only. Or else you can go to payment workbench. This page we call this is invoice creation page. From here you can do, or else you can go to payment workbench where you can create and manage the payment information. From payment workbench, you can create the payment. These are the two manual options. We have a third option called as we can automate the payments. Okay, we can automate the payments. We can automate the payment process. That is possible. To automate the payment process, we have to understand certain concepts that we will see later. We will test three. How to make the payment from invoice screen, how to make the payment from the payment screen, how to make the payments from payment process request, which is automated process. You no need to select invoices. System will select invoices and then it will automate the payments. We'll test three. Now we'll go with this option, how we can make the payment from this page itself. If you want to pay from the same page for this invoice, you have to pay the full amount. Partial amounts are not allowed. If you go to payment creation screen, there you can pay partial amount. Now, how much we have to pay? 5,000. I want to pay only $2,000. I don't have funds. Yes, that is possible if you pay from the payment screen. But now we are in the invoice screen. I want to pay. Yes, you can pay, but you should pay full amount. Let's see how to do that. I want to make the payment for this invoice. To make the payment, go to invoice actions. Here is the action called as pay in full. Pay full amount. Then you can use this option. Let's pay full amount. Later we'll see how to pay partial amounts, etc. So select pay in full. To this business unit, whatever the bank account we assign, it is fetching now. See, automatic is taking because we don't have many bank accounts created and assigned to this business unit. We have one and only bank account. So that is taking automatically. Whenever you click on this pay in full, system can verify this invoice belongs to which business unit. Is there any bank account created and assigned to that BU? Yes. Say 2 bank accounts are assigned. It won't display any bank account here. You have to select. You assigned only one bank account, it will display. If you have multiple bank accounts access, you can select here. But unfortunately, only one is assigned to this business unit, what we created. So you cannot go with any other bank account, only this account. So we created payment process profile as a part of setups. We created payment process profile. Okay, this without this, you cannot process the payments. You have to select as a criteria. So select digital payment process profile. Payment process profile you can select. Now select payment document. As a part of bank account creation, we selected payment document as a digital check. We given check numbers also 1001 to 2000. Select it. Then automatically system will reserve the check number. Payment number is nothing but check number. Within this bank account level, we created payment documents. Within the documents, we created this name and this is the number, starting number we given. Now here we have 1001 means always assume there will be check in the printer which is inserted with the same number. Now click on submit. System can record the payment for this invoice. Click on submit. It will create payment for this invoice and it will create separate payment record for this invoice also. So we process payment with this check number for 5,000 USD. Say okay. Now click on validated status and you see the payment as done, paid. So earlier we have seen unpaid and due date so and so. Now we paid. It is showing 5,000 USD paid. We'll go and see the payment record what system created against this invoice. Click on cancel. Say save and close. Go to payment task. Okay. Go to navigator. Under payables, go to payments task. And go to task list. Okay, go to task list. Here, we have one task called as manage payments. So this page, whatever you see, this page we call as payment workbench. Anything related to payments, you can deal in this page. You can create the payments. Okay, and you can manage the payment information. It could be manual payment or automatic payment. Everything you can manage if something is related to payments. Go to task list. Click on manage payments. We can find out the payments which are already processed. Click on manage payments. You want to find out the payments belongs to which supplier. Provide that supplier name to find out. Select supplier. Our supplier name is digital supplier 1. Search digital supplier 1. Select our supplier name. Now with this supplier, if any payments are already processed, you can find out. Click on search. Only one payment we processed from the invoice workbench itself. The check number is 1001. Now click on the same check number. So to whom we paid? Payee. To whom we paid? Digital supplier 1. When we paid? Today. Status negotiable. Payment status negotiable means this not yet reconciled in the cash management. We discussed as a part of P2P and O2C cycles. Within the P2P cycle, we discussed payables should send the payment information to cash management for bank statement reconciliation. So that is a point here you have to align. Status negotiable means not yet reconciled in the cash management, just we paid. What is the status of accounting for this payment? Unaccounted. Accounting is not created. Yes, it is not reconciled in the cash management. If reconciliation is yes, means the status will be reconciled. Okay. And it is taking the payment type as quick. If you want to print any check, always use the type as quick only. We'll discuss when you create the manual payment. Again, I'll explain the type and how much amount we paid and everything you can see here. So this is all about payment record. We paid, okay, 5,000 by using the check number for how many invoices? You can pay for multiple invoices also using same check number. But anyway, this we paid from the invoice workbench. You can pay for only one invoice. So for which invoice we paid this 5,000 with this check? Check that. Go to paid invoices. For this invoice we paid. Invoice number is so 11111. You can click on this number, it will display the invoice details also. Invoice type is standard, due date is today. It's already paid anyway. So this is how you can check. You can create the accounting for this invoice. If you create accounting for this invoice, that accounting information also system will transfer to GL in the form of journal, and it will post the same journal in the GL. To create the accounting entry for this invoice, click on actions, click on post to ledger. Here also you can create the draft accounting sample. Let's proceed with the post to ledger. It will create accounting, it will transfer to GL, and it will post the payment journal in the GL automatically. So accounting is complete. Click on view accounting. Now tell me from where it is taking the liability account. Here liability account is debit, cash clearing account is credit. When you make the payment, liability account is debit, cash clearing account is credit. From where this liability account system is taking?
From invoice.
Sir.
From invoice only. Again, it won't go and take from common options. For which invoice you are paying, within that invoice, what are the liability account it is taking, and cash clearing account is crediting. What is the meaning of these accounting entries? So when you create invoice, accounting entries, certain expense account, whatever the expense account you enter, that account is debit. Liability account is credit. When you make the payment, the liability account is debit, cash clearing account is credit. What is the meaning of it? When you create invoice, it means you spend some expense and you have to pay to supplier. Liability means you are liable, you have to pay to supplier. You spend some expense, for that you are liable, you have to pay. When you make the payment, already you paid, there is no liability, you don't need to pay anything, already you paid. So liability is debit, means you are reversing the liability. Here credit, here debit means cancelled. What is the final entry as of now? You spent expense and you pay to the supplier, but it's pending for clearing. The check is not cleared. You issued the check, that's it. That is the meaning of cash clearing. Once you do the reconciliation in the bank, what I can say, like in the cash management, after reconciliation, it will create entry like cash clearing debit, cash is credit. It means after reconciliation means your supplier submitted check in the bank that got cleared. Now check is no more pending for clearance. So cash clearing you are reversing, means it is not at all pending for clearing. It's cleared. When it is cleared, cash should be credited, means from our account they will deduct the amount and the bank they will pay to our supplier. So just the accounting entries will help us to understand reality where we are standing. Okay, you may make the payment. If you make the payment, whether it is pending, check is pending for clearing, or else it got cleared. You cannot understand by seeing invoice, but with the accounting entries you can understand. So expense debit liability credit means we spent expense and we have to pay to supplier. Payment. Liability debit cash clearing. We paid, but it is pending for clearing. Check is pending for clearing. No more liability. We are reversing the liability. Once reconciliation takes place, it's cleared. That means no need to talk about as it is pending. So it's cancelled. Final entry is cash. So we spent expense, we paid. In between where we are standing, whether we are liable or check is pending, to capture all this, we are capturing these accounting entries. Okay, we have seen these two. We will see this entry when we deal with the cash management application. Now the question is, from where these accounts it is taken? Yes, already we discussed liability, it is taken from the invoice. For which invoice we paid, from that invoice, it is taking the liability account to reverse the liability, whatever we have in that invoice. And from where this cash clearing account is taking? Cash clearing account is taken from the bank account. At the time of bank account creation, automatically system selected cash and cash clearing accounts. From cash clearing, that bank account, it is taking the cash clearing account. These points are very, very important. When you create invoice, what is the accounting entry? From where it is taking. When you make the payment, what is the accounting entry? From where it is deriving. These you should remember. There is no big logic. What is the entry? From where it is taken. That's permanent. That's all. So this is all about making the payment from the invoice workbench itself, and you can create accounting from here. Another condition is you cannot create accounting for payment if no accounting is available for invoice. Invoice accounting is mandatory to create the accounting for payment. If no accounting for invoice, no accounting for payment, system doesn't allow. That is a dependency. Already we created accounting for invoice. Now we are able to create accounting for payment also. This is what we have to understand. We'll go and create one more invoice. How we can make the payment for that invoice directly from the payment workbench. It could be full amount or partial amount. We will check. Okay. So what you could do is, and one more point, you go and check in the GL, you see that accounting entry which is coming from AP, which is related to payment. Search. So you have one more record, one more journal created, which is coming from payables, categories payments. 5,000 posted. You can open this. Just click on journal name. It is creating with the period and payment, what exactly it is. And you can see entry. The liability account has a debit. So accounts payable is nothing but liability. And cash clearing. Place the cursor on this. The cash clearing account is credit. So it's posted also. You see the status posted. Okay, that's all. Done. Now we'll create one more invoice. Okay, we'll create one more invoice and we'll see how just payment can be done from the payment workbench. Go to invoices task. It will take us to invoice workbench. So it is showing recent invoices are one. In last 24 hours, only one invoice created. Create invoice. And select supplier. You cannot find any other suppliers other than the supplier what we created and assigned to this BU. Only one supplier is assigned to this BU. Supplier means supplier site to this BU. No other supplier you can access from this field. Which supplier sites are assigned to this BU, only those you can access. So based on the BU, it is displaying the legal entity. Based on the supplier site, it is displaying. If you have multiple sites, you have to select. If you have multiple legal entries, you have to select. Since we have only one, it is default. In reality, that's how you can just you can have here, or else if business unit is different, accordingly, if you have a different legal entity, you can select in the setup itself. Business unit, business functions, assignment task. You can give the invoice number, say 2222. Invoice amount is $10,000. Go to lines. Enter line amount 10,000. If you want to use the distribution set, use it, or else you can enter the manual distribution. You may select furniture or computers. I'm selecting computers distribution set. Yes, this is how you can change. And based on this computers distribution set, system will create the distribution accordingly. You click on distributions. As per this computers distribution set, how many accounts we have, what is the percentage, accordingly it will distribute the total 10,000. See here. That's it. Now, you know the standard process. You can validate and do. Optional, you can account. Accounting is not mandatory. If you want to send to GL, then you have to create accounting. You can see status is validated. I want to make the payment for this invoice, or else I want to change the due date. So payment terms, I'm selecting net 45. Okay, net 45, or else I'm selecting payment term digital 50/50. Go to invoice actions, click on manage installments. You can see the due dates for this invoice based on this payment term. So 50% amount you have to pay in on 20th, remaining 50 on 30th. That's how the payment terms are available. So 50% means 5,000. So this is how it works. If you change the distribution payment term, accordingly it will display the information. I'm selecting net 45. Now go to manage installments. Here you can see total amount we have to pay May 25th within 45 days. But here you can see the discount related information. If you pay on or before 15th of this month, you will get 1,000 discount. You have to pay only 9,000. If you pay on or before 20th, you will get 800 discount. You have to pay final amount as 9,200. On or before 30th, you will get 500 discount and you have to pay $9,500 only. This is how, based on the payment terms, what you select, you can find this discount related information or schedules. Okay, let's go with immediate or anything you can choose, no worries. If you have a discount, it will calculate discount accordingly, it will create. It's validated. Now I want to make the payment for this. Say save and close. I don't want to pay from this page. If I want to pay from this, I have to pay 10,000. If I go to payment workbench, I can pay 10 or I can pay partial. Both are possible. So go to here is the payment workbench page. I open the same instance under two different tabs. One is invoice workbench, other one is payment workbench. Instead of shifting from one to other, you can open two tabs, one for invoice, one for payment, so that easily you can test. Go to task list. We are here to create the payment. So click on create payment. Click on create payment. Your supplier name you can provide. You want to make the payment to which supplier. Hope you can just notice this point. System is taking the business unit automatically because we have set the profile option. Supplier is digital supplier 1. Select our bank account. Here notice one point, payment type, quick. What are the payment you are processing? If you want to print the check from the system, you have to use the payment type as quick. I want to print the check from system only, so I'm using the quick. Sometimes Already you might have written and given the check to your supplier. You issued the check to which supplier, how much payment you processed outside of the system, you want to capture in the system. Already check you given, you want to record in the system through manual process. Then select manual. Manual means it won't allow you to print the check from the system. Manual means already you given the check for which supplier, for which invoice, how much you paid, just you are mentioning in the system. If you want to print the payment from system, use quick. Already you given the check outside of the system, you want to record in the system, use manual. And other type is refund. We will work on it. That is a separate concept. We will work on it. Mostly when you give the advance to supplier, you may ask for refund sometimes. Say you given 10,000 advance, you use 6,000, 4,000 is left with the supplier. You are not going to buy anything from the supplier. You may request the supplier to refund. When you are receiving the amount from the supplier, you will record here as a refund from supplier. That is a separate concept. We will work on it. For now, don't worry about it. Only the point is quick. And this is the bank account details we selected. And at the time of bank account creation, we selected currency as USD. You can make the payments only in dollars by using this bank account. If you want to pay in rupees, not possible. If you want to make it possible, you have to do additional setup. That is again different concept we will discuss. And how we are going to make the payment to the supplier? Through check. And select payment process profile. Select payment document. And now it is going to consume or reserve 1002 check. Already we paid. System reserved 1001 check. Now 1002 check. By using the check, for which invoices you are going to make the payment. What system will do is, with this site, if any invoice are available, it will display. It never displays other supplier invoices, even other site related invoices. This supplier may have a more than one site also. You select a New York, that site information only it will display. With this site, if any invoice is available, it will display. That's all. Now just click on add. So it is showing the invoice. Select this invoice. Invoice amount is 10,000. Select. Apply. Say OK. So unapplied amount is 10,000. Here 10,000 we are going to pay, but I don't have 10,000 funds with me. I can pay partial amount. If you want to pay partial amount, you just click on this record. Just hit that record. Click on that. Now it turned into editable mode. Unpaid amount is 10,000, yes, but how much you are going to pay, you can update here. I'm going to pay only 2,000. Okay, remaining 8,000 would be due and you may pay later. This flexibility you don't find when you pay from this invoice workbench. From this page, if you select pay in full, it will select total 10 and you have to pay 10. But if you are paying from this page, you can select how much amount you want to release as of now. That's it. Now you can say save and close. If you click on save and close, system will record the payment. And it will create the payment file also. Automatically it creates payment file. If you want to see, you can see that. That payment file can be used for printing purpose. So you can go to tools, scheduled processes. And here you have a payment file, format payment file. The moment you click on save and close, that means you are completing payment. System creates the file here. The same file you can use for check printing purpose. Select. Under log and output section, you click on one more. Okay. Here you can go to PDF file format. click on PDF file format, open this. So this information will be printed on the check. This will be printed as a check date. This is the check invoice information. This is check number. Okay, this will be printed on the check inwards. This will be printed on as an amount, and this name will be printed as a pay to. These alignments should be done by technical consultants with the concept called as payment formats. We selected payment format called as standard check during the bank account creation and payment process profile creation. That is a seeded one which Oracle is providing. These need to be aligned by technical consultant. Anyway, that I mentioned as one of the concept in the payables. What should be done by technical, what we have to do, we'll discuss. Okay. For now, simple point is the moment you make the payment, system create the payment file. By using this file, you can print the checks. So just take this note. And while you make the payment also, you can just select printing. We'll see that when you make the next payment. So that's all about creating invoice and creating payment. We'll see automatic process also. Another simple point is, say I created an invoice. Invoice amount is 10,000. And after creating invoice, I got update from the supplier. Supplier is offering 500 discount to. Of course, when you are purchasing, supplier will discount and will give the invoice. But take the case after buying, you are getting some additional discount. So now already you created invoice and you did some activities, validation, accounting, etc. Now supplier informed, supplier is offering the 500 discount. Now in the system, you have to reduce 500 from this 10,000 so that you can pay 9,500. So you have to reduce 500 because you are getting special discount. Minus 500. Why you are reducing? You are getting the discount. Because of the discount, if you want to reduce the invoice amount, you have to create credit memo. In the payables, you have to create the credit memo. With the credit memo, you can reduce the invoice. And at the same time, I'm taking another case. Say we purchased 10 quantity from supplier. For 10 quantity, we got invoice 10,000. Unit price is 1,000. Okay. 10 quantity of material we received and 10,000 invoice we received. Say 10 laptops we purchased, each laptop is 1,000, 10 laptops, 10,000. So we received invoice and we recorded. We have to pay in the next month. So meantime, what happened is one laptop we identified got damaged and we are going to return that laptop to supplier. Already in the payables, you recorded invoice with the 10,000. And since inventory department return laptop to supplier, the same amount we have to reduce from this invoice. One laptop is 1,000. So you have to reduce 1,000 minus 1,000. Business case is purchase returns. Why you recorded credit memo? Because discount. So you recorded credit memo to reduce. Now the business case is purchase returns. In case of purchase returns, if you are going to reduce the amount from the invoice, you have to create debit memo. DM. Here you can see the purpose is same. The both memos, debit or credit memo purpose is same. What is the purpose? Reducing invoice amount. But these always we use based on the business case. I want to reduce amount. Why? Supplier given discount. Use credit memo. You want to reduce invoice amount. Why? Your organization did purchase returns. Use debit. Okay, credit memo for discount, debit memo for purchase returns. Debit memo we use only for the purpose of purchase returns. Other than purchase returns, with any reason, if you want to reduce the invoice amount, use credit memo. That's it. Use credit memo. So credit memo for the purpose of reducing the invoice amount other than purchase returns. In case of purchase returns, use debit memo. Other than purchase returns, maybe you by mistake you entered wrong amounts in invoice, you want to reduce, use it. Supplier given the discount, use it. Or else supplier given the invoice amount more than actual amount, you spoke to supplier, supplier agreed, you reduce it. Any reason you can use it. Okay, ultimately these two memos to reduce the invoice amount, but based on the business cases. So once you reduce this amount, you have to pay only $8,500. We'll see how to pay this $8,500 after reducing the amount by using debit and credit memos. So this is all about debit and credit memo to understand. We will see. Okay, this is debit and we will see rest of concept one by one. We'll see, but let's go very relevantly. Okay. So we know how to create invoice and now we want to reduce this amount. Let's see how to reduce. Create an invoice with the 10,000. Of course, we have one invoice with 8,000 outstanding, but we are not going to use it. We'll see that later. Let's create invoice with $10,000 to test whatever we discussed. So supplier name is digital supplier 1. Invoice number I'm giving 3333. Amount is $10,000. You see the invoice type as standard. Enter line amount. Expand lines. Enter line amount as 10,000. And submit this invoice for validation. Automatically this accounts it will take into distribution. You don't need to click on it. It's showing. So with the same amount, there is invoice created as a 2222. We are telling you no worries, continue. Again, submit for validation. This will get validated. After validating this invoice, I want to reduce 2,500 from this invoice with a credit memo. Let's see how to create it. So you are going to create the credit memo to reduce amount from this invoice 3333. Say save and create next to create one more invoice. Could be debit or credit. Just click on this. So you want to reduce $500 from which is supplier related invoice. Select that supplier. I want to reduce from digital supplier 1 invoice. And invoice number. I'm going to create credit memo. I'll give the number as CM. I may not receive this invoice from the supplier. Just sometimes we may get, sometimes you may take initiative. Credit memo 1. How much amount we are going to reduce? $500. Minus 500 you have to enter. And select type as credit memo. Invoice type as a credit memo. Select invoice as a credit memo. Invoice type. Now, this $500 we are going to reduce from an invoice. That invoice you can select with the option called as correct unmatched invoices. Here we have two options related to this matching. Correct matched invoices, correct unmatched invoice. How did you create that 3333 invoice? Through manual process. We created 3333 invoice through manual process. Whatever the invoice you create in the payables through manual process, that we call as unmatched invoice. What is a matched invoice? The invoices, whatever you create in the payables based on the PO information. We create invoice 3333, nowhere we given PO information, everything we enter through manual process. How to create invoice based on the PO, we will see later. That is separate concept which comes under P2P cycle. Now the point is, we created invoice through manual process. The invoice what you created through manual process in the payables that you call as unmatched invoice. Are we going to reduce $500 from the unmatched invoice or matched invoice? Unmatched only. It is created directly, that is unmatched. Select correct unmatched invoices value and click on go. So the system will create this credit memo line and distribution based on our 3333 invoice. You don't need to enter lines and distribution. Just click on go. You want to reduce $500 from which invoice? From this 3333. Click on search. The 3333 invoice, you have a 10,000 and you can enable correct. Enter how much amount you want to reduce. $500 minus 500. Now click on apply. Here correction type there is nothing, only amount correction. Okay. Now click on apply. So with this $500, it will create credit memo line. Whatever the account is available in this 3333 invoice, the same account it will copy. If you go to distributions, whatever the account we have in the 3333 invoice, the same account it will copy. It's taking the account, entered expense account. We don't need to enter. So for credit memo, system is creating the line under distribution by copying the information from the standard invoice. Now submit this invoice for validation. Let's create debit memo also. Click on create and save and create. Next. You want to reduce one more 1,000 from which is supplier invoice. Digital supplier. Digital supplier 1. Say invoice number is debit memo 1. I'm going to create debit memo. How much amount you want to reduce with the debit memo? $1,000 minus 1,000 you have to enter. Which type of invoice you are creating? Debit memo. Select debit memo. Same process. Go to line section. Select correct unmatched invoices. Now click on go. Okay. What's wrong with this? Click on go. Something wrong with this. Don't worry, just refresh and you try. Open this. We created credit memo only, right? Yes, credit memo we created. That's cool. Refresh this page and you can create. So create invoice. We are going to create the credit memo. Debit memo 1. How much amount you want to reduce? 1,000 minus 1,000. Select type as a credit memo. Sorry, debit memo. Now select correct unmatched invoices. Click on go. Now find invoice 3333 invoice number. Already we reduced $500. Now we have only 9,500 in this. We are going to reduce 1,000 more. So enter minus 1,000 and click on apply. And say OK. Done. Just validate the invoice. So validate the invoice. Now we'll go and make the payment. Here credit debit memo we created. Say save and close. If it is an automatic process, system can select invoice, debit and credit memo and it will reduce and it can pay remaining 8,500 to supplier. In case of manual process, you should remember to select the invoice, debit and credit memo. Otherwise, it will allow you to pay 10,000. In the automation, it will reduce, but manual process, you have to select. Let's see that. Go to payment workbench. Go to task list. And here, sorry, we refreshed. Okay, fine. Go to payment workbench, click on payments. Go to task list. Click on create payment. And select supplier you want to process the payment to supplier. Digital supplier 1. And here you can select your bank account details. Only one account you have, select from drop down. And select payment process profile. Digital payment process profile. And payment document, digital check. Now select the invoice 3333. Now see, we selected, we have to pay 10, but you should select debit and credit memos, then only system will reduce. But in the automatic process, it can pick automatically, but manual process, you should remember to select. So 10,000 minus 5 minus 1,000, 8,500 you are going to pay. If you want to print immediately, see, we have seen it will create the payment file from that. By using that, you can print. But if you want to print immediately, what you can do is you can go to advanced. You can enable print now and you can select the printer name. Printer name need to be installed in the system. Then you can select printer. From the printer, you can print it. The payment check. That's how you can do. So now you can say save and close. So payment is, this is the check number, total 8,500 paid. So this is how you can process the payment, including the debit and credit memos. We just seen how to create debit memo and credit memo, how to make the payment. While making the payment, it's mandatory you have to select the debit and credit memo so that we can process the payment. Fine. So invoice creation based on the PO and receipt, we will see later. This is P2P related. We'll see how to create invoice by using the spreadsheet. How to create invoice by using the spreadsheet. We'll see this concept. So if you want to create invoice by using the spreadsheet, you have to download and install ADFDI file in our system. Directly, you cannot create invoice from the spreadsheet. In your mission, from which system you are accessing this instance, in that system, you have to download and install ADFDI file. What does it mean by ADFDI? ADFDI stands for Application Development Framework, ADF, technology. Application Development Framework, DI, desktop integration. By using this ADFDI functionality, we can create invoice from the spreadsheet. If you want to download the spreadsheet, the ADFDI file from the instance, you have to assign employee role to your user. Assign employee role. Here you can see under tools, download ADF desktop integrator. If you click on this, it will end with error. You just assign employee role, it will allow you to download. Go to Tools, Security Console. Users. Find our user. Assign role called as employee role. Click on add role. Assign employee. Okay. Employee, select this employee role. You select which is starting with ORA prefix. ORA, employee, ORA prefix, and assign. Click on done. Say save and close. Done. Now, for the first time, after assigning the role, what you can do is you can run the process. You can run the LDAP process. Here is the task name. Click on the task. Click on submit. Say OK. Done. Sign out and sign in so that it will establish the new session. It may update the changes immediate base. Okay. Now let's try to download the file. Go to Navigator. Go to Tools. You can see Download ADF Desktop Integrator. Click on it. I think it is not synchronized. No worries, even if you do this, in some instances it doesn't work. For that, what I'll do is, I'll share this file with everyone through Google Drive. I'll create one subfolder in the Google Drive. In the same Google Drive, I'll just place this ADFDI file. And if you are able to download from the instance, please do it. If you are not able to download from the instance, please download from the Google Drive and install in your machine, and you can start using it. So this is a file I'm going to share with you. This is a file which you can download. If you click on, okay, this link, you click on download ADF desktop integrator. If you click on that link, this is a targeted file which should be downloaded. ADF Excel add-in installer. Once you download, right click and click on run as administrator. Then it will get installed. In my machine already installed. So yes, now it will repair in my case. Just already I installed, so it is going with the repair option. Already installed, I am not going to install again. Installed. So once this is done, once you download and install, what you have to do is you have to go to Excel options. You have to go to Excel options. File, go to options. Here, go to add-ins. Select COM add-ins and click on go. So ensure that Oracle ADF 11G desktop integration add-in for Excel is populated here, as well as the checkbox is already enabled. If it is not enabled, you should enable it. This is what you have to check. The file, whatever we download and install, that will add the add-in. Okay, the add-in to Excel automatically. That you have to verify whatever you install that is added to this Excel workbook or not. After checking that, again go to options, go to trust center options. Okay, select trust center, click on trust center settings. Now you have to select macro settings. Select under macro settings, enable all macros radio option and enable trust access to the VBA project object model. You enable it. That's it. So these are the setups we have to do. After doing that, you have to close the Excel sheet for first time. For the first time, you have to close the Excel. Close the Excel sheet. Then you can try to create invoice from the spreadsheet. Let's see how that can be done. So that's a simple process. Download and install and set Excel options. Once that is done, you can create invoice from the spreadsheet. Go to payables. Click on invoices task. Now go to task list. Here is the task called as create invoice from spreadsheet. The task name is create invoice from spreadsheet. Click on this task. It is downloading the spreadsheet. Double click and open. Just double click and say enable editing. We need to connect to our instance from the spreadsheet so that the spreadsheet will have a connectivity with our instance to access the data which is available in our instance. So do you want to connect to this instance? Say yes. Now you can give the instance credentials. Sign in. Skip. So this spreadsheet is tightly connected with our instance. What are the data we have in the instance that you can access from this spreadsheet? Select our business unit. We are going to create invoice with which business unit, select it. Digital US business unit. Give invoice number, say 5555, invoice number. Invoice currency you can select from drop down, or else you can type in this cell USD. Invoice amount $2,500. Invoice date, today's date, April 10th, 23. It will convert into actual format. Supplier name you have to select. Double click in this field. It is already connected with instance. You can select our supplier which is already we created. Say we given the name as digital supplier 1. Here you can notice there are 2 star marks for these 2 fields. Means if you provide supplier name, it will take number. Even if you provide number, it can take the name. Here you can see at least 1 is required. If you provide one, other one, it can fetch automatically. Select supplier site, double click. If you know the exact name directly, you can enter here. No worries. System will validate. If it is available, it will accept. Otherwise, it will reject when you try to import the invoice into payables. Site name is we given as NY, New York. Same you search, select. And what would be the payment currency? whatever the invoice currency you given, the same currency system will select as a payment. Still, if you want to provide a payment currency, you can give it. Say USD, but not mandatory. So this is a line level amount. You don't need to give the line numbers. Directly you can give amount, that is $2,500. So distribution combination. If you want to enter the distribution account, you can enter, or else what system will do is, whatever the distribution set is available at supplier site, it can copy and it can use it. If you notice this sheet, it's very simple. Means if you want to create invoice with a very basic information, you can use this spreadsheet. That is the reason the spreadsheet title you can see, create quick invoice. Since information is very limited, quickly you can create. That means if you want to create invoice with a basic information quickly through spreadsheet, you can use this sheet. So after entering these details, you can enter multiple invoice. You can enter one more row, that would be second invoice. 3, 4, multiple invoices you can create. Now click on submit undo, save undo, submit invoice import. If you click on this, this information will be imported into payables application through interface. For payables, we have a interface. Interface allows to import the data into payables from outside. Now spreadsheet outside. From spreadsheet, you can load the data into payables by using the payables invoice open interface. Okay, there is interface kind of channel which allows, if you want to enter into the room, there should be door. In the same way, if any data you want to bring into payables, we have a payables open invoice interface. Now this invoice information flow into payables through that interface from this spreadsheet. Now click on save and submit invoice import. Say okay. So the invoice information what we are trying to import belongs to which BU. Select our business unit. At a time, you may enter multiple BUs related invoices in this spreadsheet. That is possible. You can create invoices for multiple BUs in this sheet. Which BU related invoices you are trying to import? Just provide the criteria. Okay, digital, or else simply you search, you can simplify. And what is the source? Spreadsheet only. Yes, in the spreadsheet only we create invoice, that information we want to import into payables. Now click on submit. And say okay. Here you can see the row status. Row inserted successfully. Now you can find the invoice in the payables. What is invoice number? 5555. You have to refresh this page navigation so that you can see in the recent invoices. Click on invoices task to refresh this invoice workbench page. Now you see there is one incomplete invoice, means not validated invoice, which is imported just now. Now click on this section. So invoice is available here. From spreadsheet, it is imported into payables, invoice number 5555. You scroll it till right, you see the source. From where it is coming? From spreadsheet. The rest of process is same. Okay, you can just open this invoice and you can validate this invoice, and you can account, you can pay, or else from here also you can validate, from here also you can account. So this is all you can do it. So this is how you can create invoice from the spreadsheet, and you can import the information to payables. The spreadsheet we are calling as quick invoice. It means very limited information only you can enter in that spreadsheet to create the invoice. That is the reason they are calling it as a quick invoice. If you want to create invoice from the invoice workbench directly from instance, we have seen, we have header, line, distribution, and again different tabs in all the levels. So you can arrange, you can input the data, whatever you want to enter, right? See here, if you go to show more header level, there are multiple tabs, multiple fields, many we have. The same way line level also, you have distribution, reference tags and all different columns. You can select and you can see relevant data. The same way distribution level also we have here also many fields we have, but in the spreadsheet very limited. So that is the reason that is a quick invoice we can call. Quick invoice means where you can create invoice very quickly with the basic information through spreadsheet, or you can call it as spreadsheet invoice or call it as ADFDA invoice, any name you can use. Now you can submit this invoice for validation. As per the due date, you can make the payment. If you want to send this information to GL, run the create accounting here. Just you can click on post to ledger, it will create accounting, it will transfer, it will post. So that's all about how to create invoice through spreadsheet. Okay, this sheet you can reuse also. You can save this sheet on the desktop. Whenever you try to connect to the sheet, it will ask you to connect to the instance. That's how this will stay connected with instance. And you can enter the data and you can interface to payables. You can send to payables through this spreadsheet since it's already connected with instance. So that's all about spreadsheet invoice creation. So invoice creation based on the PO and receipt, that is separate concept. We will see as a part of P2P. For now, we will just take it as a pending. So done. In tomorrow's session, we'll see what is a pay group, how we can automate the payment process. Automating means we use payment process request. You can automate the payment process. You no need to select invoices, system can select and it can process the payment. Once we are done with that, we'll see prepayment invoice creation, nothing but giving advance to suppliers. And withholding tax, when we are making the payment to our suppliers, how to hold the tax amount, how to pay to the tax authority instead of paying to our suppliers. Okay. So instead of paying to our suppliers means if our supplier is registered, we can pay, they can pay to the government. If you are paying to the supplier who is not registered entity, you cannot trust them. They may pay, they may use. That is the reason we hold the tax and we pay. And we'll see the bills payables. Bills payables are nothing but giving future dated checks. Okay, PDC. If you are issuing the post dated checks to suppliers, how to deal with that? And what does that mean by pay alone? Pay alone means it's a kind of setting the rule with one invoice. Okay, for one invoice, we have to use one check. With one check, you can issue the payment for multiple invoices. But if there is any business requirement, if your supplier is asking to pay separate check, each invoice, say you got 5 invoices from your supplier is asking, please issue 5 checks. By default, we can issue one check for 5 invoices, but supplier is going to ask you how to pay, how to do that. Along with that, if time permits, we'll see foreign currency invoice and payment. Means so far, what are the invoices we created in the USD. So in this concept, we'll see how to create invoice in the different currency and how to pay, what are the setups are required. So we'll try to cover these topics in tomorrow's session if time permits, or else whatever we could do, we'll do it. We'll see that. Yeah. So these are the points, just make a note. We'll connect tomorrow, same time.